You're listening to the Third Down Squad podcast, the best international news podcast for the National Football League. We're your hosts, Derek, Josh, and Toby. Let's get you ready for new set downs on Sunday.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Third Down Squad podcast. It's good to be back. We got a lot of great content here for you guys. There's a lot has happened over the last 2 weeks. First, some news around the NFL. First thing is Ezekiel Elliott is not happy with Jerry Jones's Zeke who comment. I'm sure most people have seen the video or have heard about it. Jerry Jones was asked about Zeke's holdout and about Andrew Pollard coming in, doing a good job in the preseason. And apparently Jerry Jones said, Zeke who? As if Jerry Jones wasn't very amused and wasn't having a care in the world that Zeke wasn't there. That's just what's going on. Ezekiel Elliott's not happy with those comments, neither his camp. And we'll see how that develops with the new contract that's about to happen. Emmanuel Sanders is back this week. He was able to perform in the 49ers Denver preseason game. It was his first time being on the field since tearing his Achilles since last December. So it was good to see him out there playing again. And another wide receiver, DK Metcalf, apparently is having knee surgery. But the Seahawks aren't too worried, as apparently they're being told that he's not expected to miss much time. It's something that they caught early on. But apparently that's still another big thing that's to be monitored. We don't know the severity of it, but if they're saying it's not going to take much time off, then hopefully it's nothing severe. Another wide receiver, Julian Edelman, apparently has passed his physical this week and is now cleared to play for any activities that he wants. And that means he'll most likely be ready to go week 1 when the Patriots play. And another news, Derwin James is now being told he will be out for several games to start the season after suffering a fractured foot. He had foot surgery on it yesterday, and apparently the severity of it, we don't know. We don't know how long it'll take for him to get back, but most are predicting he will miss at least the first 4 games of the season. And the last breaking news here, the Cowboys have reached a long-term deal with Jalen Smith, their outside linebacker. Now, how much that deal is worth, we don't know yet for certain, but right before we started the podcast, that was the breaking news. Ian Rappaport was the first one to announce it. So we'll see how much that is worth. But that is another free agent, possible free agent from this next year that is off the board. And now we're going to move on to Antonio Brown. That's right. For the 3rd week in a row now, we're talking about Antonio Brown because he's given us another reason to keep doing it. Everyone has heard about his helmet issue and everything else. Well, now Antonio Brown hasn't been showing up still to practice. Now, to give credit to perspective on this, Adam Schefter did report that Antonio Brown did show up for practice on Monday afternoon, but he was never spotted with a helmet, and he was not spotted doing any other activities. So how much he actually participated there's not much to really know. But from what we're being told is that he really didn't do a whole lot. And now Raiders GM Mike Mayock is now saying he has exhausted all options with Antonio Brown, and it's time for him to either step all in or step all out. And now Brown is also filing another grievance with the NFL to try and get this new helmet issue resolved so he can wear his helmet. And he's also now playing the race card and putting this in and saying that it is because of his race and everything else that's keeping him from being allowed to wear the helmet that he wants to. Before we get into it anymore, Toby, we're going to start with you. What do you make of all this for Antonio Brown? Are the Raiders really did they realize they made a mistake here?
Yeah, I think they're starting to realize it now, and we talked about this, I think, actually when the Raiders signed Antonio Brown, that he's kind of the diva of the NFL, and he's a cancer in the locker room with how he acts and stuff like that. And exactly that is showing right now with that whole helmet situation and what's going on right now, him not practicing with the team, Now, like you said, he's filing a grievance and playing the race court for it, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
it is
It's severely
absolutely
weird.
nothing to do with what's going on there right now. But yeah, I hope the Raiders don't take it too lightly, and there might be some punishment for Antonio Brown in there. I don't know how much they can actually do about it because he is one of their best players on the field right now. So they just can't say, okay, you're sitting out a couple of games for that. That would hurt themselves. So I
And
don't
I
know
don't
what the
even think
Raiders
that
really
would
can't
hurt
do.
him,
Yeah.
honestly. I was gonna say, I don't think that would hurt Antonio Brown at all either. I don't think he really cares.
Yeah, I mean, if he's suspended by the team, he doesn't get paid. But I kind of think that's the only thing he cares about right now, because he definitely doesn't
Yeah.
care about football.
All right, Josh, what do you got to add to that?
I think that the Raiders are finally coming to their senses, and I'd say Antonio Brown is pretty much like all employees. You know, I'm just here for the paycheck now. So I think that's what it's always been about, just getting that money and then just finding. I get that you know we're humans, we're creatures of habit. You know, you get used to one helmet. You know, it's gonna be hard to change because something could feel off, but the rules are the rules, you know, and your helmet has been deemed like unacceptable to use because it's 10 years overdone, you know. So the NFL is looking out for your safety, but you're more worried about how you'll look in a helmet or how it feels as compared to, like, you know, living a normal healthy life after the NFL, because you're trying to prove a point here. Yes, it's like, I get it. If somebody took something away that I was used to, you know, I'd be upset too. But if there's rules that are in place because of that, you kind of got to follow them. And remember, Tom Brady even didn't want to give up his helmet, but then he just gave up and just took the new helmet, you know? I know there's sentimental value in it, but you just got to drop it for your teammates, you know? Like, they need you out there. And I know that you're, like, his frostbitten feet are also an issue too. That's like probably majority of why he's not practicing or anything like that. But to not tell them where you are and just go AWOL after they gave you what, 30 million or something like that up front, and then just run around and just go off the grid, you at least got to let your team know where you're going. And I honestly think that the Raiders, they could find some loophole to reject the contract they just signed. Sure, he'll still get some money, but he won't get all of the money off that deal. So he's not building himself a good case anymore. And I think the Steelers were probably right, or mostly Big Ben was probably right about him, how he just kind of puts himself before the team. And I think that he threw Big Ben under the bus, as well as Ben Roethlisberger throwing him under the bus. So there's no victim in that sense.
Yeah, and the Steelers are looking back now and thinking, wow, I'm so glad this is not our problem anymore. Let's just think about this. March 13th, the Oakland Raiders signed Antonio Brown. A couple days later, he has a press conference to address the media. He is over a half hour late to his own press conference meeting. Okay? So that's the first weird thing there. Then he goes out there and says, you know, I'm here to make guys better. I'm here to make this team better. I'm here to hold players accountable. Responsibility, having his actions speak louder than his words. Well, I don't know if that was Antonio Brown from a different universe. I don't know, but apparently he is doing everything opposite of what he's saying he's doing, because he said, follow my actions, not my words. Well, we're looking at your actions, buddy. We're looking at your actions. Your actions aren't speaking any louder than your words, because neither one is doing you favors right now. And then less than a month later, has an interview with ESPN stating he doesn't need football. I can live without the game. I don't need it. I don't feel like I need to be a part of anything. I can pick up my bags tomorrow and leave, and I would not give a shit. Well, there's that. And then he obviously has his frostbite that he's dealing with, which, again, was a non-football related problem. And then he goes AWOL for 2 weeks and does not tell anybody where he is or what he's doing. Then he, when that story didn't work out in his favor, then he all of a sudden has the helmet story. And when that started to die down, then he started coming back. You know, he's saying, oh, okay, I'm going to ignore it. I'm just going to go back and do what I do. Well, now he's filing another grievance, playing the race card amongst all things, which is kind of funny given the fact that 70% of the players in the NFL are black. I don't know how you can play the race card in any, particularly any sport other than major sport other than baseball at this point, because the majority of athletes in basketball and football that say there's all these issues with their leagues towards them, the majority of them are black, okay? But we'll just ignore the race card for now. But I don't understand, man. I'm trying to wrap my head around all this. I'm trying to think, is there some odd reason? But you have to think Antonio Brown has to be the biggest diva that has ever come into the game of football, even bigger than T.O., because T.O. didn't sit out games because people didn't like him. Now, he had his fair share of issues, don't get me wrong. He had fights with teammates and stuff. I get that, but he wasn't petty enough to miss games because he didn't get what he wanted, or practices. I mean, and just think about it. Last year, 6 months ago or 7 months ago, he was getting traded to Buffalo and said, I'm not going there. You're taking me back or else I'm not going. How petty is that? How petty is that? It's just, it's starting to get to the point where the Raiders players are starting to turn on him now. Like they're saying, dude, you're either going to show up or we're not going to play with you. It's becoming such a big issue. And I don't know why. I mean, the NFL can't really do anything about it, because ultimately they've said their piece. You're not going to win this grievance. You're not going to get the helmet that you want. We're trying to help you out. Just do it, okay? There are 2,000 players in the NFL, and only one is having an issue with his helmet. And he is regarded as the best wide receiver in football. He's a black athlete that came from nowhere and is now a multimillionaire. And yet he wants to be petty and play race cards and make up all these stories just so the attention is all on him. I'm beyond done with Antonio Brown at this point. Yeah, I'm beyond done with him.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like Josh is right here, because I don't think it's really about the helmet, because you can get used to anything. And if you really want to get used to a new helmet, you're going to go to practice and wear that helmet as much out of the actual game as you can to get ready for the game and get used to the new helmet. So I think Josh's right here when he's saying that he actually wants to cover up how bad his feet really are, because there was actually never a report how badly injured his feet really are.
I've seen videos of Antonio Brown like running on the tracks and stuff. I don't think it's his feet that are the issue. I don't think any of this is the issue. I think the issue with it is that he's now on this new team. He's trying to push his limits and see how far this team will go. And I think that now that he knows he's gotten paid, he just feels he can do whatever he wants and just doesn't have to follow any rules, which I don't understand, because I mean, I feel like the Oakland Raiders, the Pittsburgh Steelers allowed this behavior, and then it finally got too far, and then they said, okay, you're gone. Well, now Oakland's not setting any boundaries to Antonio Brown at this point is like a kid. He's like a 7-year-old. You have to establish boundaries the moment he gets into that locker room. If he doesn't follow them, boom, you're gone. You're gone.
Problem is the Raiders can't afford to say, okay, boom, you're gone. So he knows he can't afford to sit out practice and maybe sit out 1 or 2 games to start the season to kind of get the attention to him. Because
That's what's the problem with the Raiders. That's now
Yeah.
that how they've screwed themselves, because they now know that Antonio Brown's got his money, and they can't just tell him to leave. And I mean, ultimately, what you said was right, Toby. They sit him. What good does that do for him at this point? You know, they sit him, then they all lose, and Antonio Brown wins because he's still getting paid at the end of the day. But and then if they say goodbye, then Antonio Brown gets money, and then they lose again. I mean, ultimately, they're losers in this because they made the stupid mistake to give this guy the money that he wanted. All right, so now we're going to move on to another team here with the New York Giants and Daniel Jones. Now, everyone has known the quarterback situation in New York, where Eli Manning and Daniel Jones are going to be competing for the starting job. While last week, the owner of the New York Giants has even said that he hopes Eli Manning plays all year long, has a great year, and Daniel Jones never sees the field. Now, interpret those comments any way you want to. I don't necessarily like hearing the owner saying that, but interpret that any way you want to. But that's not what we're talking about here. Daniel Jones has definitely lit up the practice field and in preseason so far in his first 2 weeks. He's balled out in the first game where he went 5 for 5 for 60 yards and a touchdown. And now all the attention is on Daniel Jones, wondering if he can actually lead this team in the right direction. So, Josh, we're going to start with you on this one. Is there a QB controversy in the New York Giants locker room right now?
Yes, I believe there is. Now, I have relatively high expectations, for Daniel Jones. Not really for Eli Manning, because he's past his prime and we all know it. But back to that earlier comment from the owner, right? Is it the Maras that own the team?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Maras, yeah. That just proves that Daniel Jones was chosen by Gettleman and not the owners. So there is already a division within the team right there. You're either on Team Jones or you're on Team Manning. Now, you could say that he has the capabilities of leading this team, yes, but I think that the Giants are still just too loyal to Eli Manning, even through the hard times of last year and the year before that, where he was just straight up garbage. He just looked like he didn't care anymore. So hopefully Daniel Jones can light a fire under his butt and actually get Eli to look like, 2007, 2008 Eli Manning, who actually looked like he gave a crap about, being on the field and not looking like old man Eli out there. So I honestly think that you'll see Daniel Jones about week 9, week 10, and he'll actually start starting when Eli Manning shows his incapability of actually throwing the football anymore, because Eli is just, I guess, stuck up and like a stick in the mud where he's not bending for anything. Like, if he knows that Daniel Jones is better than him, Eli should just say, hey, I'll let you start week 1 and see how that goes, But if he does that, then he's not going to start. So maybe it was just like a blessing in disguise, but just looking back at that 6th overall pick and the surprise on Daniel Jones's face when he saw he was going 6th overall said it all of, I can't believe they got me here. What's going on? So he can lead the team for sure, but it's going to take a while. He still needs wide receivers.
Yep. Toby, what do you think?
I don't think there's really a controversy right now. I think media and public are kind of overreacting to preseason right now. And I mean, it's the first 2 preseason games. And it kind of reminds me in 2017, I think it was with Deshaun Kaiser. He had a really good preseason. He started for the Browns, and I mean, he couldn't really get anything going in regular season. And in preseason, he looked like the next quarterback for the next decade before Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of that. And I just feel like the Giants don't really have a number one quarterback on their roster right now. Yeah, like Josh said, Daniel Jones might start in week 9 or week 10 because Eli Manning just simply sucks in the regular season. But I don't think Daniel Jones is doing that much better in the regular season because first of all, he's gonna face the first team offense against a lot of good teams, and it's a lot different in the regular season than in the preseason. So I feel like Eli Manning is their clear starter right now and should be the clear starter to start the season. But maybe if he just does perform like the last 2 seasons, Daniel Jones should start in around the middle of the season. I'm not sure when their bye week is, but maybe do a change after the bye week. But I don't think there's a controversy yet, at least in New York.
All right, let me just kind of say this first. For the New York fans that have consistently booed Daniel Jones, even when Daniel Jones threw out the first pitch at a New York Yankees game and was booed when he walked out there, I have no sympathy for you. I have no sympathy for you. I hope your team continues to do terrible, and I hope your team continues to just get trounced, and you feel the pain that you're inflicting on this young kid. Look, we've all had our fair share of criticism towards the Giants for picking Daniel Jones. And we've had our fair share of criticism for them sticking around with Eli Manning for this long, okay? We're not all Giants fans here, okay? We have our unbiased objections to this pick, and for good reason. But again, Daniel Jones did not pick himself in this position. He did not pick himself in the position where the owner and the GM of the team says that they hope that he does not play for 3 years. Like, what the hell is that? To be a 6th overall pick and say, we hope you don't play for a while. We want you to sit. We want you to be behind Eli Manning. And again, Giants fans are all super giddy that Daniel Jones is doing insanely well in the preseason games. Yeah, y'all were just booing this guy a month ago when he did the pitching performance, and now you're praising him for what he did in a game that meant nothing, meant absolutely nothing to anyone. Again, like Toby said, it's preseason, and I've been saying this about Colts Nation all freaking preseason, is that these are preseason games. There's a reason they don't matter, because they don't count towards the record, and your best players don't play all game. Daniel Jones can go out there every day and go 5 for 5 and get 60 yards and a touchdown every preseason game. That will not change my view on how I view him. It doesn't, because that's 5 pass attempts against guys who are most likely some guys that might not even make the roster. Okay, so as pertains to the controversy itself, I don't think there is a controversy, because I think that the eyes of the public are being tossed to the side by the Giants organization. I don't think the Giants organization truly cares what the fan base truly thinks they should do. I think at this moment in time, the fan base thinks you drafted Daniel Jones 6 overall. Let's at least get this kid in here and start getting him to work a little bit. But I don't think they care. I don't think they care. I think they're still so mind screwed up by just Eli Manning being there, that they just want him to keep balling until he's literally injured to the point where he can't throw. And then they have to put Daniel Jones in. And hell, even when Eli Manning's hurt, I think they still might try to put Eli Manning in there, because the owner said it. The owner said it. I hope Eli has a great season and Daniel Jones doesn't see the field. I hate that comment. I absolutely hate that comment, because I know the owner wasn't trying to make it sound malicious, but you're also making it sound as if you're just casting him off in the shadow. Like, you made the most controversial pick of the entire 2019 draft, and then you're just going to say we're going to cast him off to the side and just hope that when Eli Manning's all said and done, that Daniel Jones is going to be the next guy up. I don't like that. And I think that Daniel Jones should start this. But the reason I don't think there's a controversy because I think the Giants owner and the GM are so set in their ways on who they want to start at quarterback that there's no controversy to me. Eli Manning's going to start, and then if he gets if he starts to get plastered in hell, even if he gets plastered, I don't think he will, because remember last year he was really bad the first 10 weeks of the season, and then the last 6 weeks how they went 4-2, and then Eli Manning really started playing well at a much better level. If they were able to stick around with him through that, I really, really think it'll be hard to believe that they wouldn't do the same thing this year.
Yeah, but I mean, last year they didn't really have a backup. They had nobody they put on the field instead of Eli Manning. Maybe Odell Beckham Jr., who was in the first 10 weeks their best quarterback on the field. But they didn't really have a real backup to Eli Manning. Yeah,
I know, but I'm saying it in the fact that the public eye was even saying it. Everyone was saying, why don't the New York Giants make a switch? And not to mention, we saw they didn't pick a quarterback 2 years ago. They could have, but they didn't want to because they wanted somebody else, because they truly believe Eli Manning is the answer at this moment. And when you're that stuck up, then I think that there's just no getting through to them. I just think that they're just stuck with Eli is going to play until he's run into the ground, and then Daniel Jones will get his shot. But I just think I think it's stupid. But
that's the magic of being a New York sports fan. You hope that your team is great, but they end up being garbage unless they're the Yankees.
Yes. And or even then, the New York Yankees won't even win the World Series either, so that's okay.
I guarantee you half those Giants fans that booed Daniel Jones are now Jets fans just because of that.
Yeah, you saw Jets merchandise and apparel just shot up about 5%. All right, so we're going to continue with Daniel Jones, but also in another light here. The other quarterback that was drafted to the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield, apparently had some very interesting comments. Well, I guess I can't even say interesting. It's pretty much the comments that we have all been saying for the last year or for the last 3-4 months, that I can't believe the Giants drafted Daniel Jones. That truly shocks me.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Those were his words from Baker Mayfield. So the question is, Toby, and we'll start with you on this one. Give Josh a moment. Are you okay with Baker's comments about Daniel Jones?
I mean, okay, maybe not. It might be a little bit too harsh towards another quarterback in the league, but we all know how Baker Mayfield is. He's that outgoing guy. He says what he thinks. He basically doesn't have a filter. So we have seen that last year, and last year he was able. It was comments about himself basically. But this year it's going against another quarterback that might be a little over the line, but I feel like that's just how Baker Mayfield is. That's the brand that Baker Mayfield wants to portray with the Browns. And it wasn't anything too personal. He just said he was surprised that the Giants drafted Daniel Jones. Probably everybody was. Derek, like you said in the last segment, Daniel Jones was surprised himself on draft day that his name popped up with the 6th overall pick. So I feel like it's a valid point that Baker made there, and it was nothing too harsh. It's just the media needs something to talk about, as we do right here, and there's nothing really too much to it.
All right, Josh, what are your thoughts on Baker's comments?
Well, I mean, he's a truth teller, that's for sure. He'll tell you how it is, and he doesn't care how you feel about it. And I think that's why Cleveland loves him so much. And I like him too, you know. I like a good, outspoken guy who will, tell you how it is. But that there's a small thing that might have just come out of this that we're kind of overlooking. The Giants fans. Remember those guys? Remember them in the last segment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think they didn't take too kindly to that from last time I saw. So I think on Twitter or something like that, my cousin Joe, who's a Giants fan, by the way, mentioned something about a rivalry. So I'm not sure if like a Twitter rivalry between the Giants and the Browns fans just started on there or not. Don't quote me on that one. But it's, oh boy. Yeah, this was the thing that sparked a huge debate in the group chat. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to get too into detail on that, but well, yeah, somebody had to freaking say it, and I'm glad it was Baker Mayfield because everybody's going to be like gently nudging the question, like, so, Dave, why'd you draft Daniel Jones? When in reality, people just want to go like, hey, why the hell did you draft Daniel Jones in the first place? You had Dwayne Haskins. You had Locke. Yeah, that's yeah, we'll just leave it at that,
All right.
I'm glad he said something about it.
And look, I've never really had an issue with Baker Mayfield's comments about anything, really. I mean, he's a realist. I mean, let's be real here, folks. You can't sit here and say and mock his opinion on it because they're what everybody has been saying. It's what I just said 3 times in the last segment. It's what everybody has been saying. Why did you draft Daniel Jones? It's a question we're still trying to figure out. Now, do I have a problem with his comments? No, I don't. Do I have a problem that he said it? Yes, I do. Because it was a completely unnecessary shot at somebody he has no beef with. So I don't quite understand why he had to make the comment about Daniel Jones like that. Unless he's just being straight petty, which might be the case, that he's being a little petty, that everybody's paying a lot more attention to Daniel Jones at the moment than Baker Mayfield at this time. I mean, but my issue with it is that the fact that he said it, because he's talking like as if he's accomplished something, and he really hasn't. Like, I get it that he's in Cleveland, and the 6 games that he won, the Cleveland Browns went 6-7 with Baker Mayfield starting last season, right? Well, he won 6 games, which is more games they've won that season over the last 3 seasons that they've had combined. So I completely understand.
It's 7-9.
It was 7-9, but I mean, he won 6 of those games though. But I mean, here's the thing: is that Browns fans are to the point of irrationality where they feel as though 6 wins guarantees you access to say whatever the hell you want to. I mean, Josh, Josh, do you think Browns fans would be okay with Baker Mayfield's comments even if they let him get away with murder? You think Browns fans would still be okay with him then? I still think they would.
Dude, he's their franchise quarterback. They're going to treat him like Jesus. You kidding me?
I know, right?
Nothing happens to that man.
Yes, and that's the problem is he's now he feels he's on this higher morality because even us in the national media is now starting to say that Baker Mayfield's this top 10 quarterback now, that he should possibly be top 5. Now, that's obviously irrational because nobody's putting Baker Mayfield up there unless you're a homer. But at the end of the day, I don't like that he said it. I don't like that he said it because it's just unnecessary. Now, was he wrong in what he said? No. I mean, because everybody said that exact same thing. He's a realist. He's an opportunist. He's an outgoing guy that is not afraid to speak his mind. I don't mind that. It's just that when you're talking about a kid in Daniel Jones who hasn't played yet, and to be honest, Baker, you haven't proven anything much either. I mean,
he proved he can shotgun a beer at a Cleveland Indians game. He proved that.
Congrats. 80% of the male population can do that. I'm not impressed. Okay. I'm not impressed. I can do that. And I don't drink alcohol that much.
No,
okay?
He rallied the Indians into that win. What are you talking about? Why are you
So did
attacking our
LeBron
quarterback?
James a bunch of times in 2016. What are you talking about? All right.
All right, when we're starting to compare Baker Mayfield with LeBron James, we're gonna end this segment here.
Yeah.
All right.
end it
Yeah.
there.
Well, and
It's up
it
to you
was
in the
before-
comment section.
Remember Skip Bayless still on First Take many, many years ago when the Browns drafted Johnny Manziel, and he said, "I think Johnny Manziel will become an even bigger name than the Cleveland household name LeBron James." That's what he said.
You could have argued it for like a year
For a
because
part
he's
of
in
the
the
year,
media
yeah.
more.
All right, so last topic of conversation here that we're going to have is about JayZ, Colin Kaepernick, and Eric Reid. Now, everybody knows that JayZ and his company have formed an entertainment agreement with the NFL to basically work with the halftime show and a couple of other things for music and stuff to help with the NFL's popularity and stuff like that. Seems like a really good move financially for the NFL and for morality's sake too, because JayZ's one of the most iconic names in the rap industry. Well, JayZ has never really been too fond of Colin Kaepernick, and they were asking him about, because JayZ brought his company in because they want to help solve, along with the NFL helping to make money, they also want to help resolve social issues. They want to bring those to light, kind of like what Colin Kaepernick proclaims he wanted to do. And I say proclaims because I don't believe it. But then again, he wasn't always the biggest supporter of the kneeling thing with Colin Kaepernick, and he's been open about that. He says, I think we've kind of gotten past the point of kneeling. I think it's time we just kind of start working on these issues rather than bringing awareness to them. And now Eric Reid is calling out JayZ because JayZ is also trying to talk about possibly being a potential owner of a team at some point, which he's more than capable of doing because JayZ is very rich. So he definitely could either afford a team or come really close to at least being a part owner.
He's married to the Queen of America. He can do it.
That's true. That's true. Because Beyonce does have part ownership of the Houston Rockets. So, but ultimately, Eric Reid didn't like that, saying that, JayZ's pretty much a sellout. He's doing this for his personal gain, not for trying to bring social issues to light and help resolving them. Basically saying this whole thing is just a scam by the NFL and JayZ to keep you from talking about what Colin Kaepernick and I did. So, Josh, we'll start with you on this one. Do you like how Eric Reid is handling this situation? Because, reminder that Eric Reid was not the guy that everybody talked about with this big kneeling issue, but he's taking it upon himself more than anyone to say that the NFL is just trying to trick us all and that he's still a victim and JayZ and the NFL are just a bunch of con artists at this point.
See, I'm going to try to dance around this topic as delicately as possible because I just do, but I'll try to keep this brief. But I think, look, we all have our problems with, should he have kneeled, should they have not have kneeled, and all that. That's true. You can leave that in the comment section or describe it wherever you want. But for JayZ for Reid to call JayZ like a sellout and stuff, he's not a con artist. He's a businessman. You got to make business deals, you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, that old saying. So I think that Eric Reid is in the wrong on this occasion because, let's face it, he coasted in on the coattails of Colin Kaepernick doing it, Mm-hmm. Colin Kaepernick started and he's saying that he was the second one to do it, but everybody remembers first place, and everybody remembers Colin Kaepernick over Eric Reid because Colin Kaepernick did more. I didn't see Eric Reid out there like Nike ads and all that, and just out and about. So I'd say for JayZ and the NFL, they're doing the right thing. Instead of raising awareness, let's tackle these issues head on. Because if you raise awareness, people aren't just going to look at it. But if you tackle it, people are going to do something about it. So that's why I think that having JayZ and join the NFL makes sense, from an outsider's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Eric Reid is wrong to call JayZ a con artist and all that. And like I said, if Colin Kaepernick can still play, I'd say let him back in. There's plenty of teams that still need a good quarterback, but I don't know if he's going to go to the XFL or not. So I'll pass this off on
XFL because you see the money that he's wanting.
Yeah,
and that's the issue why he's not in the NFL right now is because he's wanting more money than what teams want to pay him at this point. Because I don't think many people believe he's better than their starters. There might be a few teams, a very few amount of teams who would take Colin Kaepernick over their starter right now, and pricing is basically the biggest issue. But Toby, go ahead with your statement.
Yeah, I don't see it as a big deal as well that JayZ is joining up with the NFL. It's basically like Josh said. It's just how basic capitalism works, and if you got the money that these guys up top have there, that's just what you do. And yeah, he might try to support their cause a little bit up there, but I mean, he's in there for entertainment purposes. He's just gonna, like Derek, you said it. He's taking a little bit, or he's managing the halftime show at the Super Bowl, and they had a problem last year to actually get somebody to perform on the halftime show. I think that's the first time that ever happened. That people actively said, okay, with how the NFL is acting towards the problem that Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reid wanted to raise awareness of, they're not going to perform at the halftime show. So I believe if JayZ can do a little bit up there, he might be able to make the situation a little bit better. And with being at the top of the NFL, he has the chance to do that. So it's not a bad idea to get to the top ranks of an organization that is known for being against your cause. So to have somebody up there that might actually be able to do something about it, why are you against it? Why are you calling him out before he ever had the chance to do anything? He just joined them, so you don't know what he really is doing.
Yeah, and JayZ is an icon, and like any other icon out there, icons bring in appeal, and bringing in appeal means bringing in money. That's ultimately what this is that JayZ is very popular amongst, I think, almost every person in the world. They hear in the music industry, if you don't listen to JayZ, most people know who JayZ is just because of how big his name is. And with basketball making such a big trend towards the younger population, they're trying to grab a hold of some of those older people like us who kind of listened to JayZ growing up, and some of the younger kids as well, trying to appeal. And like I said before, you said it before, Toby, the halftime shows have gotten worse and worse over the years. They've been having difficulties getting people to perform good shows. And I think having JayZ's touch on that definitely makes things better for that and throughout the season as well. And I think Eric Reid had more of the issue of trying to say how he was interested in becoming a part-time owner, investing in a team and stuff like that. Because I still think Eric Reid is really not liking owners because of that exact reason. Because, players' relationships with the owners nowadays are not getting any better than what they used to. And especially with, the whole Colin Kaepernick issue, I think that just kind of brings more things to light. And he just thinks that JayZ is more interested in just doing business with the NFL and getting richer than he is about actually trying to invest time and effort into fixing issues in society. And I mean, of course, he would say that now until, if JayZ's actually able to do something, then he won't say a damn thing about it, because then he'll be wrong. But again, I don't have any issue with JayZ, but I don't think Eric Reid. I think Eric Reid just needs to stop talking. I think he just needs to know that, dude, your time is done. You had your years of fame and your years of torment, and you're lucky to be back in the NFL for what you and Kaepernick have done, and you're still prospering, you're still making money, I think it's okay to say, I'm going to take a back seat a little bit. I'm just not going to talk about it. But apparently, you know, he still has some hurt feelings about it, and he certainly still has a lot to talk about. We'll just have to see if JayZ actually does what he says he's going to try to do. All right, and that concludes this episode of the Third Down Squad podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at T30S_NFL. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to hit that notification bell button so you don't miss any videos of ours. Be sure to follow all of us, even on Spotify as well. And as always, guys, peace.
See ya.
Later.